Hey guys, what's going on? Mike the K-Man Q here again, Pale Palm Island, MikeTheKman.com. We got another edition of Monday Nights with Mike, Livestream Q&A. Ask me anything, health related, and you know the deal. You start asking questions, and I'll start answering. And I'm going to again pull it up on my phone, that way we can see your questions, because for whatever reason, sometimes on the iPad doesn't always show up what your questions are. So, all right. Hey, Kathy, Amy, Nancy, how you guys doing? So, yeah, as you're putting your questions down, hey, miss you too. All right, Mike, what's up? Mega Mike, how you doing, brother? All right, so, yeah, like I said, you got another edition of Monday Nights. Real quick, just to address it, because I know it's going to come up. Got a nice little shiner here. We did a Royal Rumble down at Long Island MMA with Greg DiPasquale in his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. And how am I so handsome? Just always looking real handsome. Always. But yeah, that nice little shiner. We had a Royal Rumble. I was a master strategist tonight, and we pulled out the victory on a super tough team that we were versing. But, you know, we got that going. But back to the questions here. Why am I so handsome? It's all the bacon, bro. That's the key. It's all about the bacon. Lots and lots of bacon. That's the answer. So while I'm waiting for the rest of your questions, and you're putting them down in there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer a question that came to me earlier from my client and good friend, Mariana. And basically, she was talking to me about vitamin D levels and what low levels on a vitamin D test could be. And essentially, what's going to happen is when you see low levels of vitamin D on that blood test, more often than not, you're looking at 25 OH vitamin D, which is basically the precursor. The physiologically active one is what's called 1,25 OH. So that is the actual active version. It's calcitriol. That's going to tell you more about what your vitamin D status actually is. What that marker on your blood test, when you see it, is that you have low vitamin D. What that really is normally going to tell you is that you are experiencing some inflammation. The reason being, well, vitamin D is part of how your body deals with inflammation. It acts as an anti-inflammatory. So that vitamin D goes out into circulation and starts taking care of that. If you are chronically inflamed, your vitamin D levels are generally going to drop, because what's going to happen is that vitamin D, think of it like gas. So you have so much gas, you burn through it because you really have to drive around everywhere. So if you deal with that inflammation, if you say you plug the leak in your gas tank, then you're going to actually have higher levels of vitamin D. You're not going to need to fill up as often. So if you see low levels there, what should you do? Should you start supplementing with vitamin D? Not necessarily. You're better off actually making it internally more often than not. What you're better off doing is actually getting in more fat. That's like, what? That's right, because cholesterol is a precursor to vitamin D. If you want to make vitamin D, you need cholesterol. Okay? Cholesterol, vitamin D, vitamin D3, the kind you're going to supplement with. If you look on that bottle, it's going to say cholecalciferol, okay? C-H-O-L-E. The reason why it says that is because it's made up of cholesterol. Cholesterol is a precursor to the production of vitamin D. And essentially, vitamin D is like our own version of photosynthesis. Plants, they use photosynthesis, right, to produce energy from the sun. Well, our bodies, our cells, the sunlight comes in, the UV rays, they hit, and they actually convert that cholesterol into vitamin D through a number of steps, but just bear with me on that. So if you actually want to produce more vitamin D, you want to make sure that you have adequate cholesterol. Crazy concept, I know, but we've talked about that before. So if you want to boost your vitamin D, you need cholesterol and sunlight, period. Now, if you were to actually get that second test, that 125 OH vitamin D, well, what's going to happen is that's going to tell you whether it actually is low or not. And that, in and of itself, isn't necessarily the best answer, but you're still going to be better for making it by yourself. If you do decide to supplement vitamin D, you're going to want to make sure that you're taking in adequate vitamin K as well. So something like megaquinone from Microbiome Labs would be a great idea. That way you get both in tandem, because vitamin D is kind of like insulin in the sense that vitamin D tells calcium where to go. Vitamin D actually puts calcium where it's supposed to go, similar to how insulin puts sugar where it's supposed to go. Well, vitamin K is the master that tells vitamin D where to put that calcium. If you just supplement with vitamin D and you have excess calcium without vitamin K, what's going to happen is vitamin D can put that pretty much anywhere. So you can either put it into your joints and get some arthritis. You can put it into your kidneys and get kidney stones. You can put it into your arteries and you get atherosclerosis, the hardening of the arteries that's generally coming from too much vitamin D with inadequate vitamin K. So, hey, Julian, Katie, Mira, what's up? Perfect timing. We're just talking vitamin D and vitamin K, the importance of putting them together. But, yeah, it's okay. So, let's see. Still look good and smart. Thank you, Amy. Nancy, yes. Bacon. Katie, I have 2 questions. Hey, Annie, what's up? So, Katie has 2 questions. How do I naturally get rid of thrush? And what do I think of boar's head, chicken, and turkey cold cuts? Thrush. Yeah, that is what's that? Viral? I'm not too sure. Give me a little more information right now. I know I've heard of it, but honestly, I'll be straight up. I don't know off the top of my head. Is that a viral infection or... I don't know. Help me out here. Next one, though. I'll come. When you help me out there. Keto? There you go. There's the answer. I would likely agree with that statement. But yeah. Thrush is keto? Go on. So, yeah, put more in the comments. Help me out here on this one. Regarding boar's head, not necessarily the biggest fan. So it's fungal. Thank you. Thanks, Nancy. So, yes, boat's head is shitty, as is boar's head as well. Yeah, no, not a fan of boar's head, chicken and turkey. Not really a fan of poultry cold cuts in general. Not really a fan of cold cuts overall. Applegate does make some pretty decent stuff. I'd lean more towards the beef and everything. I lean more towards like the roast beef and everything. Okay. So candida on the tongue. So it's a fungus on the tongue. Keto, absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely be going super, super low carb towards keto. We are looking at a couple of week old child. So honestly, it's not going to be a full keto diet. That being said, the breast milk should be keto because it should be high in MCTs. I would probably swish his mouth a little bit with a little bit of coconut oil. So, yeah, how old is Katie now? Like 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old now? Yeah, I know. So I would again, honestly, I would probably take some like coconut oil, like switch and put it like rub it 3 weeks now, like rub it around his tongue. So the reason being is that coconut oil, the lauric acid and the caprylic acid will help to deal with antimicrobial factor. So that would be your best bet for me, particularly considering, he's only 3 weeks old. In terms of diet, yeah, he's basically going to be keto right now anyway. Diluted tea tree. I like that. Thank you, Nancy. That's a great idea. So coconut, yeah. So what I would say, maybe even use the coconut oil as a carrier oil, right? So maybe dilute tea tree oil in a little bit of coconut. Try the coconut oil by itself first, then move to a diluted tea tree oil in a coconut oil carrier. And same thing, I would literally just rub it around his tongue. In terms of diet, again, so if I were you, Katie, I would try and keep my sugar intake super low right now, only because you are providing the bacteria, the yeast, you're providing the microbiome for Caden right now. So if he has thrush already, it means he got exposed to a fungus. Thank you again, Nancy, for the alley-oop on that. And as such, and of course Mira, but in terms of the thing, so I would move towards a super, I would eliminate the sugars. I would definitely head towards a keto yourself. I know you're not necessarily the biggest fan of going fully that way. We've had many discussions on diet in that direction, but I would definitely, at the very least, minimize the sugar, if not eliminate sugar intake, and move more towards it. Honestly, your milk production probably will be higher anyway if you're getting in more vitamins and more fat, but that's a whole another conversation for right now, just to help clear that up, because again, you are the diet, you are the one, and the MCTs are going to be coming out of that breast milk. It's one of the only other natural sources. That would be the best thing. Yep, happened to me. Big fungal flares, a pest, baby. Yeah. I'd also consider, again, eating some fermented foods, getting more probiotic in to help deal with that. So some quality yogurt, things like that. Okay. Oh, Andy, that's an easy one. That's an easy question. A fun one for you today. If you had to survive on only one food, what would it be? And the answer, of course, would be bacon. I could definitely live on bacon for the rest of my life. If I had to pick one food, I was on an island, bacon would in fact be it. It would cover most bases. Probably be a little bit short on vitamin C, but what could you do? So, hey, Russell, what's up, brother? And Joe, what's up, man? Okay, so yeah, if I had to pick a pick, bacon would be the answer. If I was actually trying to pick for health purposes, I'd probably go with liver. But if it was liver by itself, it would get a little squirrely over time. I'd probably have some iron overload, so I'd probably have to like find some leeches real quick and make sure that I was doing some some bloodletting therapy. Yeah, citrus bacon, that'd be great. Is there a healthy way to consume cooked bacon? Yes, all of them. No, so obviously, particularly processed foods, red meats, and just meat in general, even chicken, anything, even your vegetables. But it's less important on the vegetables per se. When you are cooking foods, you very rarely want to barbecue them or super high heat. As delicious as that is, the problem is that that's when you start getting into the production of HCAs. If you get into the production, so that's hydrocyclic amines, nitrosamines, which is a whole another ballgame. PCAs, and I'm blanking out on a couple. Making another assist. The ladies helping me out like amazing right now. But in terms of that, Russell, I'll answer that question in a second because it doesn't actually exist. I'll come back to why in a second. But in terms of bacon, the best way you're going to want to do it is to actually bake the bacon. So doing it in the oven would be the healthiest way because it's going to go slower and longer. From there, stovetop. From there, do. But the oven would be the healthiest way. In terms of consuming bacon, just make sure it's not turkey bacon. Actually eat real bacon. Get the best source you can. I really like Tender Grass Farms. I also really like U.S. Wellness Meats. They have some awesome ones. I like Pete's Paleo. Those, unfortunately, are all on the more expensive end. Hey, Jody, what's up? However, over at Fairway, they have Garrett Valley, which is pretty solid. It's not the cheapest, but it's a little bit better price than the others. All right, Russell. So in terms of a multivitamin for someone who's deficient in potassium. So the thing that's squirrely, what's up, Jody? The things that's squirrely with multivitamins is that you can't really put enough potassium that it's worthwhile into a multivitamin. It's one of those weird regulations, and unfortunately, because of that, any multivitamin that has potassium won't really have it in a high enough dose to actually do much. So, if someone is deficient in potassium, which a lot of people are, what you're going to want to do is make sure you're getting more in dietarily. Murray, what's up? You got a party coming on soon. But yeah, so with that potassium, your best sources are, in fact, beet greens. And you're going to want to lightly steam them. So you want to cook them. In their raw state, they're going to be bound up by oxalic acid. It's not going to be available. However, if you lightly steam it, or even saute it, that will help to break down that acid, the oxalic acid, and it will be more available to digest. And it is the number one source of potassium. There are 1.2 grams, or about 1,200 milligrams, or maybe it's 1,300, whatever, 1.2, 1.3 grams, or 1,200, 1,300 milligrams of potassium in 1 cup of those beet greens. And that's about a quarter of what you need in a day, about a third to a quarter of what you need in a day. And as such, you'll be well on your way to getting where you need. Other things that are excellent source of potassium, depending on what you're doing, are going to be either avocados, sweet potatoes, even white potatoes, but depends on the person who we're dealing with. So if you are somebody who can tolerate slightly more carbohydrate, those are going to be excellent sources. If not, then you're going to want to stick more towards the beet greens and towards the avocado. Awesome. So far we've talked about the importance of vitamin D in a natural source, actually making it yourself, and why the number on your level is probably garbage. We've talked a little bit about thrush. I got a little bit of an assist on that. Thank you, ladies. Talked a little bit about cold cuts. Probably shouldn't be eating much of them. Honestly, they're not great. Talked about what would be Mike the Caveman's only food if he could only eat one, and that, of course, is bacon. And we built off of that with what are some of the best ways to cook bacon and why it's important to cook it properly. Potassium, best source of potassium. And we also talked about why I am so handsome. That's right. And of course, the answer is bacon. It's always bacon. We also talked about why I have the Shiner, awesome class down at Long Island in May. We had a Royal Rumble Jiu-Jitsu at the end. So if you are interested at all in fitness or martial arts or just improving your life, stop on down to Long Island MMA or Long Island Strength and Performance and come hang out, come party. But let's get some more questions, guys. So far, we've been some awesome questions, doing some good stuff right now. So, yeah. What else we got going on? What other questions we got? We're about 16 minutes in. So, yeah. Okay. Spreadable olive oil butter. Oh, boy. Like the Olivios, is that where we're going with this? Like that kind of, or the, I can't believe it's not butter. So, or the Oleo, whatever the hell those things are called. I remember I got suckered into that when I was back in college. The problem with most of those olive oil butter spreads is that they're not actually butter that you're adding it to. It's generally like an olive oil, canola oil spread. Yeah. So if that's what we're talking about, if it's olive oil and canola oil, absolutely not. Canola oil is garbage, okay? Canola oil is completely processed. The majority of it is, in fact, GMO because it is, modified. It's called, canola oil is called canola oil because it comes from Canada. So it's Canadian oil. The reason being, its actual name would be a PR nightmare because canola oil comes from the rape seed. Yes, you heard that right. Kind of like the van, only it's a seed. Rapeseed oil. Terrible for marketing purposes. As such, they changed the name to canola oil. And the fact of the matter is, it's super processed. Seed oils in general. Think about how much seed you need to actually squeeze to get a bottle of oil. Okay? Corn. How much soy would you have to squeeze to get that bottle of oil? Versus, say, taking a coconut and mashing up the meat and squeezing that. Taking olives, squeezing the olives. Taking milk and churning it. How much do you need versus the other? It's a lot less. So in terms of evolutionarily, in terms of like traditional diet, okay, it's not necessarily that we couldn't do it or that just because we didn't eat it back then doesn't mean you can't. It's how much did you actually get exposed to that? How much, corn oil, seed oil were you actually consuming in the past? Maybe like a nanogram of it in the past, bare minimal. So little that it's not something that's necessarily a good part of your diet. As such, those spreads, if it's an olive oil, coconut oil, olive oil, actual grass-fed butter, sure. But honestly, there's no reason to just get rid of that. Just use actual grass-fed butter and you'll be ready to rock. If you want, depends on what you're even putting it on. What are you putting it on? If you tell me bread, Annie, we're going to have some problems. We're going to have to fight. I'm kidding. But not really. So, I kind of am. That being said, Murray, is nutritional yeast paleo keto? All right. So, nutritional yeast, yeah, it kind of is. In terms of its use, are we talking about just purely supplementally, like to get some extra B12? Is that what we're looking at? In that case, yeah, shouldn't be a problem. If you're talking about using it to, to make an occasional paleo treat, sure, again, probably won't be keto, but certain recipes could call for that, could make it work. On foods, yeah, so but using it on foods to like the kale chips, I think they use the yeast to make it like a faux cheese, right? That's how the vegans make cheese. Annie, you can probably help me out with that. Katie, if you're still on, you can probably help me out with that. I got a couple of my My vegetarian vegans. Is Vegemite nutritional yeast? I don't know, but I've heard of it. I've never looked into it. And the B is like that's a butt. And yeah, you're trying. Okay. Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem on foods. Like, what are you using it for? The extra like B12? I mean, I see no other purpose for it than that, really. You have the Bragg's. Yeah, Bragg's always makes good products for the most part. Shouldn't be a problem. Russell just sent me stuff. I guess Russell needs fire cream. All right. Surgery. Jody. Well, okay, flavoring purposes. Fair enough. Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. I don't know. I guess it makes it like cheese type flavoring. I don't know. Surgery made done several weeks ago, starting exercise. How many days a week for yoga to start? That does get into a little bit of a squirrely neighborhood, Jody. Are we talking like actual abdominal, transverse abdominal? So are we talking like rectus abdominals, 6-pack? Are we talking about so transverse, like the inner layer, like the vacuum, if you do a vacuum stretch, or are we talking about the rectus, like crunching? Which abs are we talking about? Which ones we have surgery on? Either way, I probably wouldn't be doing too much of an intense yoga because your transverse ones, those are the ones using a plank or a vacuum, and those are going to be stabilizers. And if you just had surgery on that, most of yoga requires some intense core stabilization. If it's your rectus, so your 6-pack abs, when you're going bending down or you're arching back, both of those, little bit of a swirly situation. I would definitely be talking to your PT and or surgeon on that to make sure. I probably wouldn't feel overly comfortable training somebody after 7 weeks with that kind of surgery, honestly. All right. Yeah, the cheesy kind. All right, so I had it right. You had to keep like going with all these other side points, and all right, it's the cheesiest. Yeah, I mean, sure, why not? I mean, there's always, I know you can't really do the dairy, so yeah, in your case, absolutely. Yes. Your answer is yes. Use your yeast. Just use it for the food. Don't put the yeast anywhere else. That'd be bad. Anyway, all right. At what point does combining carbs and fat not healthy in terms of ratios? And the answer is yes. What? That's right. So essentially, it really depends on the person and or the situation. How insulin sensitive are you? What is the end goal? And I know with you, we've had to play around a whole bunch because in your case, yeah, we have a number of issues. So there's ketosis on the one end where you're getting rid of like carbs completely. There is something squirrely that happens on the other end that doesn't really have a name yet. It's called, Denise Minger decided to call it carbosis. And I've written about this. I've done a video on this. And it's one of those things where it shouldn't make sense at all, but the literature actually does exist. And it's, as a scientist, it's kind of hard to deny that literature. There's too much of it to actually completely just write it off. The biochemistry and the physiology don't make sense, but it happens. When you drop your fat to below 10%, something magical happens, and we start to see a lot of the same reductions of health issues that we see on a keto diet. And it works, and it's kind of where a lot of the vegan, vegetarian, plant-based, when they start to go to that super crazy low fat, yeah, there actually can be some benefit. The problem is mixing the both. So a lot of times that's what we don't see. That's why when there's mixtures of issues, like where you don't see the benefit on a low-carb diet, because they didn't truly go to a true keto, or on the other end, on a super low-fat diet, it wasn't actually that low fat. When you mix the two, then yeah, you can start to see problems if you are metabolically deranged. It depends on the person. But hey, Faye, hey, Josh, what's up, guys? So it really depends on the person, depends on the context. How broken is your system? Changes up how much you can handle of mixing and matching. If you are relatively metabolically healthy, then yeah, you can get away with eating all the carbs and all the fat at the same time. Maybe not all of them. You get where I'm going with that. In terms of what the best ratio of combining them is, depends on your system. If you're not insulin sensitive, I know in your case, not particularly, probably going to want to keep your carbohydrates isolated away. If you are super insulin sensitive, then yeah, you can have them, go to town. If you're missing a gallbladder, then yeah, you're going to want to keep your fats towards, coconut oil and palm oil and basically things that are short or medium chain, so grass-fed butters and things. The other fats, want to make sure you take in an enzyme that help break it down, so lipase enzyme. But other than that, it's definitely a deeper of a question that I can answer in, a couple minutes on a live stream. But yeah, no, we have some great questions so far. We're about 25 minutes in, so we're getting close to where I like to call it. But keep putting the questions in while I'm waiting for a couple more. Let's okay. What type of exercise is best for burning stubborn belly fat? All right. And yeah, Murray, if you haven't seen my my Game of Macros, a Song of Fats and Carbohydrates article, that goes for anybody if you're interested. Yes, lots of Game of Thrones references in that article. I did do something on that, and it's one of those where, to me, doesn't make any sense, but it does exist. And yeah, I'll put a link to that. It was actually pretty cool. There's something interesting that goes on there. But what type of exercise is best for burning stubborn belly fat? And the answer generally is resistance exercise followed by conditioning. Now, long bursts of slow, steady state cardio generally isn't going to be the best. It's actually possibly going to contribute to more belly fat because it's going to generally raise cortisol. And cortisol is generally what keeps belly fat around the midsection. Too much stress. A lot of times people trying to force those last couple pounds off get overly stressed, and then they, in fact, end up fighting a uphill battle. As such, you're going to want to do some more intense, higher intensity stuff short term. So some conditioning work, but also making sure to actually be lifting. Resistance training is going to lead to a post-workout burn of calories during the muscle repair process, as well as actually help to build muscle. Muscle is more metabolically active. It's going to basically burn the furnace a little higher. So you actually want to have more muscle if you want to lose fat. So it's not that muscle's getting converted to fat, those old myths and everything. No, but having more muscle will lead to less fat overall. Just saying. All right. How much magnesium is required if you have fibromyalgia? That's a great question. I can't really give you a solid answer for two reasons. One, I honestly don't know the exact dosing for fibromyalgia. And two, is that even if I did, it gets into a squirrely neighborhood to be giving out dosage recommendations on that kind of thing for specific conditions. Generally, I give ranges for, a range of conditions while I'm working with, while I'm doing these videos. And if I'm working with a client directly, then I have, we have an agreement that, you're working with me and there's less of a issue there. But from a legal stuff, I don't feel comfortable just throwing out numbers, particularly on like a mineral or something like that. But the other end of that is, honestly, I don't have the exact number specifically for fibromyalgia. So honestly, I know I would probably ask Michael. Michael probably has a great idea on that. He's really good with things like magnesium and stuff. But sorry, if you want to reach out to me after this, I'll look into it and I can probably give you a better answer. I just don't really want to put it on here. Sorry. Okay, what other questions we got? That being said, I do think that magnesium would be an excellent idea for fibromyalgia. It's just a specific dosing. It's a little squirrely. So we talked B12 from yeast. We've talked about belly fat now. We talked about vitamin D not being that important as a blood marker. A little bit about yogurt. Okay, have you heard of rice sourdough? So are we talking about making a sourdough bread from rice, so taking like sourdough starter and making the rice, making that rice into a bread? Either way, sourdough is generally a pretty benign source of bread. It's one of those ones where, again, you know, all of you know that are here have probably heard me rant about this 1,000 times now. And the fact of the matter is, bread overall is not a winner. If, however, you absolutely had to, something like a sourdough actually might not be too terrible. If that's what we're talking about, the rice sourdough, if it is making it from rice, it probably will be pretty benign because white rice of the grains is one of the most benign, one of the least problematic. So if you're taking the sourdough starter, you're going and basically sprouting and fermenting it. So you should be light years ahead of, grabbing a thing of Wonder Bread. Yeah, probably won't be too terrible. Yeah, it probably could because again, the fermenting process probably will provide a little bit of enzymes. It probably will provide a little bit of vitamins. I can't speak much more to it than that. I could look more into it. That seems like an interesting video. I don't think I've ever done one on sourdough. I'm kind of agnostic to the concept of sourdough. I have seen some people talk about benefits, so yeah, I might do a video on that. It'd be interesting to look into that more. Let's see. That's a bit of a squirrely question there, Amy. Yes, there are quite a few things that are beneficial for fighting cancer. I'm going through the process of updating my website. I have a whole series on cancer. I'll link to that. I'll link to that, and that's about all I got for that right now. Short answer is generally you don't want to do a keto diet. CBD would be a good idea. ECACT is an excellent idea. IV vitamin C if you can get your hands on it. Systemic enzymes, things like Megaspore, quality multivitamin. I have a whole protocol for cancer. I'll link to that. Yeah. Next question. Yeah, so we're at 32 minutes right now. We'll see if we have any last questions. But otherwise, everybody that's come on, truly love the support. Awesome questions. I love you guys coming on all the time. I appreciate the shares. I know a bunch of people have been sharing it. Words been getting around. If you haven't already, I know most of you probably have, but if you haven't already, if you have to youtube.com over at youtube.com/Mike the Caveman. And you can subscribe if you haven't already. Actually, let me just take a quick poll. A little quick one here. So, since you guys are some of my regulars, maybe there is something called Patreon that is a website that's designed for content creators, generally used by YouTubers, used by musicians, things like that. And what it is it's kind of like a way to get away from the ad model. So the only way people make money off of YouTube videos is through ads. And I'm not really the biggest fan of that anymore. I've kind of tried to get rid of that. So what you do with Patreon is basically it's almost like a subscription where you can either pay by the video or pay by the month. And it's completely voluntary. You don't have to do it. I'm not going to be making anything that's behind the paywall, particularly not at this point yet. But essentially, it's almost like a donation kind of thing. And I've thought about it for a while about making the Patreon, but I didn't want it to be like, oh no, he's just trying to go for a money grab. So especially since some of you are some of my regulars, I wanted to see, how open you'd be to that. How receptive would you be to that? Like basically, even if you donate $1, $5, it's one of those things where you can donate to that, and it helps me to keep everything going, help create the videos. It's one of those where, do you think that'd be a good idea or a bad idea? So I'll take a quick little poll. Who thinks yes or no on Patreon? In the middle, while I'm waiting for that, Brian, what's up, brother? How you doing? But yeah, it's just a little way to, throw a little extra my way if you think I'm putting out a good thing. Cool. So we have one. I don't have a link yet. It's like a crowdfunding thing. It's you have to sign up for it, but essentially it's a pretty common thing in the YouTube community. A lot of people do that to get away from the ad models, so it's a way that you can get going from there. So I've thought about it. I figured I'd just throw it out there. If everybody thinks it's no good, then I won't do it. But if there's people who'd be interested, cool. But if you can help, great. If you can't, I'm gonna keep doing it either way. Patreon is Patreon. Again, I didn't do it yet, so no, it's okay. It's not a big deal. Like I said, I'm gonna continue doing the free videos. Everything it's gonna be free either way. That's just a voluntary thing, not a problem. Yeah. So again, it's one of those where it's just to help out. No big deal. Either way, though, guys, I think I'm gonna call it here. Yeah. If you made it this far, thank you so much. If you're on the replay, even more. The fact that you actually lasted this long, awesome. Otherwise, head over there. I ran into a little bit of some snafus on the transfer that Kim did for MikeTheKman.com. I'm trying to figure that out, but the new version of that should release. I'm going to hit up Wix's customer support possibly tomorrow, get that going. Otherwise, yeah, you know what to do. Send those questions, and I'll see you tomorrow.